Time travel within the novel The Time Machine took on one very distinct form, which includes traveling into the future. There are other forms of time travel which include traveling in the direction of the past, completely stopping time, and other time paradoxes. Within this novel, the time traveler creates a machine that is to take him from a different period of time to see how humans have progressed, except when he arrives, he's very shocked at what he sees. Imagine this. The time traveler finally succeeds in his methods of time travel, and he surges into the future. When he gets to his destination, he expects to see technologically advanced people, maybe some flying cars, but overall he expects a very futuristic image of technology and how humans have progressed, except what he finds there is very different. At first he sees, quote, "The landscape was misty and vague. I was still on the hillside upon which the house now stands, and the shoulder rose above me, gray and dim. I saw trees growing, changing like puffs of vapor. Now brown, now green, they grew, they spread, they shivered and passed away. I saw huge buildings rise up, faint and fair, and pass like dreams. The whole surface of the earth seemed changed, melting and flowing under my eyes." The time traveler first arrives at this place far in the future, and he notices the landscape and the entire place, the large buildings growing, except notices a lack of beauty within them. He expects the people there to be cruel and savage-like, but when in reality, they seem to be relatively weak creatures. Those creatures that he's describing then are the Eloi. The Eloi are carefree yet weak creatures that the time traveler is introduced to as soon as he steps foot in this new future era. He notices that they survive solely off a fruit-based diet and appear to only be 4 feet tall. These Eloi are regularly happy except for when nightfall comes, which means danger. The arrival of nightfall also means that the Morlocks are out looking for food. The Morlocks feed on the Eloi, as the time traveler later in the book realizes, and notices that the Eloi are their main source of food. The time traveler has become well acquainted with the Eloi by now, and less so with the Morlocks, but begins to think, quote, "What strange developments of humanity, what wonderful advances upon our rudimentary civilization, I thought, might not appear when I came nearly looking into the dim elusive world that raced and fluctuated before my eyes." The time traveler realizes as the days go by that this future world is nothing as he had expected. The Morlocks are feeding off the Eloi, and all expectations the time traveler had for his beautiful reality have been ruined. The Eloi were the aristocratic population of the society, while the Morlocks were the working class who were pushed below the surface. Yet the roles are reversed, and when nightfall arrives, the Morlocks feed off the defenseless Eloi, and the time traveler has a close encounter with this harsh reality himself. The time traveler had judged the Morlocks for being savages below the ground, except he eventually stooped to their level. The time traveler had gotten himself into a very difficult situation with the Morlocks while he was trying to stay in the forest. With this experience and adrenaline rushing, the time traveler had to revert to the savage ways of the Morlocks and beating them for his own escape and survival. In addition, the time traveler also explains another encounter as, quote, "I struggled up, shaking the human rats from me and holding the bar short. I thrust where I judged their faces might be. I could feel the succulent giving of flesh where the bones under my blows, and for a moment, I was free," end quote. This reflects the time traveler and within this same struggling and fighting scene, the time traveler, quote, "struggles up, shaking the rats from me and holding my bar short. I thrust where I judged their faces might be. I could feel the succulent giving of flesh and the bone under my blows, and for a moment, I was free." In this fight scene, we find the time traveler leaving behind his morals and fighting solely for himself. The time traveler had become a beast that he had previously judged. The experience with the Morlocks not only showed the time traveler, but also the readers, the reality of his situation. For all of his civilized and intellectual prowess here, he becomes a club-wielding caveman bent on violence and assisted by the primitive power of the fire. The Morlocks' sole weakness was light, which is why they live below ground and can only hunt the Eloi during the night. The time traveler in this fight scene uses the power of the fire and his weapon to make his great escape. The time traveler returns to his still very prominent caveman roots when he wields fire and a weapon to bludgeon the Morlocks. Time travel throughout this book was in no way a financially motivated scheme. Instead, the time traveler allowed us to see the harsh reality that he faced through his time machine. In general, time travel has many different outcomes, and in this instance, he has been forced to become a man he thought he would never become. Although he did physically travel into the future, the time traveler mentally and emotionally traveled into the past when he reached at those caveman roots I spoke about previously, as he returned to a savage mindset that he was initially disgusted by.